Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Ronnie back from the Unfiltered 30, and I have a special guest today. Is Ryan. Ryan is a college student from Purdue who is a soccer guru, and him and I are going to spend the next little bit of time talking about the World Cup. So, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, Ryan?
Yeah, so my name is Ryan. Like Ronnie said, I'm a student at Purdue, and with the main topic today being the World Cup, I am a big soccer fan. I have been for most of my life. You can see I'm wearing a Tottenham jersey right now. They got a
Boo.
yeah. Well, what do you know about it? They were able to get a big win today. I rooted for United when I was younger for various reasons, and then switched to my dad's allegiance to Tottenham, and I've watched every one of their games for the past 3 or 4 years,
You
and
do know that we don't hold that against your father, though, right?
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
that's checked.
I sometimes I have to question the fact that he made me a Tottenham fan, but it's okay. And I'm also big into the U.S. men's national team, which of course we'll talk about
I
today.
think we're going to spend a lot of time on the U.S. men's national team, but I'll ask you kind of first, right off the bat, what do you think about the expansion from 32 to 48 teams in the World Cup?
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, I'm not going to complain too much because it's extra games, extra time with friends, extra excuses to sit down, drink, and watch a game. But on the other hand, as we've been talking about, it's all about money, and I know that it doesn't necessarily make the product better.
So are you that guy? Because I am. Like the world stops for me for about 4.5 weeks during the World
Definitely,
Cup, right?
yeah.
There's typically in the old days, and I'm going to date myself, it was 2 or 3 games a day. Right?
Mm,
Even when it was in South Africa, like the time difference was crazy, but it was 3 games a day, and I watched every
yep,
single game.
of course.
I think this is going to be a little bit more complicated, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on why you think we went to 48 and if you think it's going to be a success.
Yeah, I mean, as we've been saying when we were talking before this, the answer to everything involving FIFA is money. So it's going to get more money for FIFA because I don't know the exact math on how many more games this is actually going to be, but every game is going to get FIFA several extra $1 million, partially from ticket revenue, but also just the extra TV coverage.
Yeah, hold on to the ticket thoughts because we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, but I think it's going to be fine. I don't think it's too big of a deal, like having a few third place teams go through because a soccer nerd like me, I watched every game of the European Championships last year, and they have a similar format where they actually have fewer groups than eight. I believe it's six. So then the top two go through, and then they take the four best third place teams to make an even round of 16.
Yeah, but when you start looking, I guess my question is when you start looking at the groups, right? And we're not gonna dive like nerd level deep into some
Yeah.
of that stuff, but some of the groups are just atrocious. Um, like Germany, Curacao, the Netherlands, and Japan. That's probably the strongest group of all of them right now.
Yeah.
And everything else, like Ivory Coast, Ecuador, Tunisia. What are we doing?
Yeah. The groups are really watered down. And I should have mentioned that when you asked if I think it'll be a success. And I mean, I think it does make the group stage significantly worse, despite the fact that there's more games.
And the fact that we still don't even know some. I think there's 6 still at large bids that are still hanging out there
Yes.
that we have play-in games between, I don't know, uh, Ivory Coast and South Sudan, for crying out loud. What the hell are we doing?
Yeah, it's the there's a few UEFA play-ins. I think there's four different UEFAs, and I'm hoping like I'm a bit in terms of sports. I like rooting for the underdogs, but in those UEFA playoffs, I'm hoping that the strongest team wins out in each of those just to make the group stronger. Maybe not necessarily the US's group because I would like them to get through easier. But I mean, you look at some of these play-ins like Ukraine, Sweden, Poland, Albania. I would prefer Poland or Sweden to get through.
Well, Poland historically has been a pretty good soccer nation, right?
Yes.
Um, they're middle of the pack European, but if they played over in CONCACAF like we do,
Mhm.
they'd probably run the table most years.
Yes.
So I agree with you that you hope that the stronger teams win those, but it's a game that's played on a field,
Yeah.
or pardon me, a pitch,
Yeah.
and the pitch, the ball bounces weird ways, so you may wind up with a Ukraine in there, and you're like, what the hell? It just
Yeah.
watered down the group.
Yeah. And luckily Ukraine's not too bad. And I'm like looking through some of these UEFA groups. They're not too bad. The international FIFA play-ins, their strength's not too good. Bolivia, Suriname, Iraq in Group I. Luckily, Group I is strong in itself alone right now.
Well,
But
so let's kind of focus back to D, right? That's where the U.S. is living right now.
yeah,
I think that we wound up with a pretty decent draw and did not wind up
Definitely.
in a group of
Yeah.
death. I think in the last World Cup that we were in was what, 22,
Mhm.
and we wound up pulling England, and there was two other.
Wales and Iran.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the Iranian one, the Iranian draw was obviously a big political draw.
Yeah.
Wales is not a terrible club,
Yeah.
but the United States did play a 1-1 tie with England in the group stage,
Yep.
which I sat on pins and needles because we're stupid. With 80 minutes gone, we parked the bus of 11 dudes
I
behind the
know.
ball, and it drives
Yeah.
you bananas. What do you think their chances are of getting to a place where they at least make it to the knockout round?
I think the US is sitting pretty nicely right now to get through. Obviously, I don't want to jinx it. You know, they got grouped in Copa America 2 years ago in a Copa America group that was not very difficult. But I'm not sure if you know, they played friendlies against Paraguay and Australia just by coincidence
Yep.
earlier this year, and they won both of those games. And luckily, even though the US didn't qualify in 2018, they've gotten out of their group, I think, in their last 4 World Cups consecutively. Like they haven't gotten grouped.
Yeah, do you remember the Belgium game?
I do.
Oh, where Tim Howard stood on his head for 90
Yes.
minutes?
It was one of the biggest cultural events in US soccer was Tim Howard saving the world for the US.
Yeah,
But
if you know the Wikipedia story, they actually changed his title to Secretary of Defense on Wikipedia
yeah, I
after that
remember
game.
that. Yeah, and just looking at the US's group, I don't want to say that things will be wins, but I can definitely say that Paraguay should be a win. Australia, it's a toss up. They have a few good European players. Anything could happen, but from Paraguay and Australia, they should get 3 points somewhere. And then the UEFA bracket that is in the US's group, it really depends who gets through to talk about what the US will do against them. But I'm confident that they'll get out of the group stage.
Well, from a roster perspective, you look at the big names that we're carrying right now. It's a far cry from the early 2000s and Landon Donovan, and then transitioning over to Josie Altidore because it was Landon Donovan and the Clint Dempsey show,
Yeah.
and I was a huge Deuce fan. Like that
Yeah.
dude was just so much fun. He was a terror. I feel like Clint Dempsey is the guy that you want to drink beer with.
Of course. Yeah.
And then we transitioned to Jose Altidore and holding midfielder Michael Bradley, who can control the midfield and could never get the attack going.
Yeah.
And now we've got this new young group of kids. I guess all centered around Christian Pulisic. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah. I mean, luckily, I feel like it's less completely centered on Pulisic than it could be. Like if there was a talent like Pulisic that played at Dortmund and Chelsea and AC Milan 10 years ago, he would have been the centerpiece. Obviously, Donovan and Dempsey were still kicking around in 14, but luckily there's enough European talent, as in players playing in Europe right now around Pulisic that I don't think he needs to pull an insane amount of weight. Yeah, I think he's the best player on the team, but I don't think he'll need to put the team on his back for them to make a run if they do make a run.
Well, who do you think is more important to the team? Like, obviously, you're going to need him to be the centerpiece striker that can put the ball in the net, but we don't have a striker that could play with his back to the net like a Jose Altidore.
Yeah,
Like
this is
that,
true.
that's I think that's like the big thing that I look at leading into the World Cup. Like, there's no big body up front that's going to be able to body some of these big defenders from the European countries.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they do have a couple big strikers. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Patrick Agyemang. He's playing in the second tier of England right now. He's having a good season with Derby, but he had a rough Gold Cup. I don't know if you watched the Gold Cup
I
at all.
watched some of it.
The US, yeah,
I just couldn't, because it was not the entire World Cup roster that was playing.
yeah.
And you're looking at some of the guys that are not, I say top tier American
Mhm.
players. I lost a little interest.
Yeah, and Pulisic did also sit out that Gold Cup,
He
so
did.
it was that definitely lost some viewing interest. But Agyemang's been good. He had a rough Gold Cup, which makes me a little bit shaky about how he could perform in a World Cup. And then there's Fuller and Balogun, who I believe is at Monaco right now, and he's a big body. But again, like these are players that are in Europe and they're good ballers, but they're not no one's near world class. Like
Well, we don't have a
respectfully,
Kylian Mbappe.
we do
It
not.
just doesn't
Yeah,
exist in United States soccer right now.
yeah,
But since you're a follower, we'll stay on the roster right now. So it is Weston McKennie is the Michael Bradley replacement, right? He's going to hold the midfield, but I think he's an attacking midfielder more than he is a holding midfielder,
Yeah, so he
which
could do
is
more than Bradley did
good for
in the
us.
attack. Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Serginho Dest. If
Hmm.
he's healthy, we were talking about it a little bit last night at the bar, but he's not a center back or a halfback per se, but
Hmm.
he's a very fast defender that can play the flank. And
Yeah.
it's important to me. I think that we have somebody that can run down the flank of the field. We've got two caught in what the hell is his name? The old white dude.
Tim Ream.
Tim Ream, like
Yeah.
he's good for a 5 foot circle around
Yeah.
around the 16, right?
Mhm.
He's too old, and the game is moving so much faster now.
Yeah.
Uh, um, Tyler Adams is another spectacular name, and then we'll talk about the controversy in U.S. soccer. Right, has always been is what do we do with Gio Reyna?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I have not seen enough of Gio Reyna's play to actually talk about, you know, where he should fit into the team. But I know, but I just feel like the publicity, I feel like it got a little bit out of hand. Obviously, it was a lot of it involving his parents and Berhalter and all of that.
Yep,
But I think I don't think it matters too much. I mean, if Poch thinks that he's a starter, then he'll start, and if not,
he
he
won't
won't.
start. That's
Yeah, I'm not too worried about the Gio Reyna thing. Obviously, he's a good talent. He's playing in Europe, but we're lucky right now to have pretty much the entire squad also being in Europe on top tier teams.
that's not unfair, and I think that there's a lot to be optimistic about when it comes to American soccer right now,
Yeah.
um, because and I all think this is a byproduct of the 94 World Cup here, right?
Hmm.
So the 94 World Cup kind of led to the MLS, which led to decent soccer being played in the United States.
Hmm.
We don't have top tier. I mean, we get Messi and we'll probably get Cristiano Ronaldo when he's 87 years old.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's helped kind of grow the game a little bit. And you're from South Jersey, so
Hmm.
soccer down here is like
It's
it's
blown
like
up.
breathing,
Hmm.
right? I mean, look at some of the names that came out of here. Carrie Lloyd,
Hmm.
uh, Alex Morgan,
Alex Morgan, I believe so. Yeah.
the
Those
Aronson
the
brothers,
Emerson brothers. Yeah.
who were both
Brendan just had a good game this morning
did he?
for Leeds. Yeah, he was balling out there. He had a big assist to get a point for Leeds.
So you know, down here, soccer is very, very
Hmm.
big.
And even in North Jersey, it's somehow become a soccer state. And I mean, that goes all the way back to the 70s. I mean, my dad could talk more about it than me, but I believe there was a time when 3 players for the U.S. men's national team were from the same town in North Jersey,
Oh,
County,
really?
like a
I
suburb of New
did not
York.
know that. If he were
Yeah,
around, he's shaking his head
he
off
gave
camera.
not of affirmative.
Yeah. So what's very optimistic about U.S. soccer is that we do have a ton of potential growing.
Hmm.
I mean, if you look at Christian Pulisic, he's probably I would say he tops out at 5'10",
Yeah,
maybe, but he's a product of the Northeast.
he is. Yeah,
So there's a lot to be optimistic about. I don't, from not a better by any stretch, but
yeah, me either.
but somebody who puts some faith in. Like I watched the World Cup for the Americans.
Hmm.
I think if they get to the round of 16, I think that would be a great year for us.
Yeah, yeah, we spoke about that yesterday. Like, I think people who aren't soccer fans that really do just watch it every 4 years, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's kind of a sense in the U.S. of like, oh, we have Christian Pulisic, he's a star for AC Milan. He could get us to the semifinals. Like, we could make a deep run. But I think realistically, we know that that's not going to happen. But if they can make it to the round of 16, and hopefully the quarterfinals, like the last 8, that would get the national attention, that would get the country buzzing, which is really what you want as a host
If we
nation.
make it to the last 8, I will have a viewing party here for that game.
Oh, me too. Like, the country will pause for that game because if they do make the last 8, they're going to be playing some powerhouse.
Yeah,
And
you're looking at a Portugal, a Spain, a Brazil, an England, a
Mhm.
Netherlands. Like those are the teams that I look at and go, man, this is what you aspire to get to.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that there's plenty to be optimistic about. Now I'm gonna switch topics because this is one that burns my ass.
Yeah.
So we're stay on the U.S. men's national team. They have 3 group games.
Yes.
They are playing in Los Angeles, Seattle, and Los Angeles.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That is not ideal, especially for us. Not that I was necessarily planning on getting to a game anyway, which I know ticket price is a different topic.
We'll go there in
Yeah,
just a
we,
minute.
we will. But yeah, I mean the Northeast and even the Midwest has kind of been like the engine of US soccer in terms of producing players and having MLS teams that have grown fan bases.
So if you look at the U.S. Outlaws, right, they have big hubs in Kansas City,
Hmm.
they have big hubs in Boston,
Yeah,
they have big hubs in Seattle. So I get it that they want to play on the West Coast, but I feel like that I don't know if it was FIFA or the U.S. Soccer Committee that decided that this is what they were going to do, but boy, did they screw us royally.
I know.
And I'll go even further. And this is just me. And I told you I was going to say this last night
Hmm.
when we were talking. On July 4th, 2026, the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, there will be a group of 16 game played in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And if the US is in the round of 16, they won't play there. What in the hell is wrong with us?
Yeah, I mean Philadelphia or Boston would have been
Either
amazing,
way.
right? Yeah, I mean even if Boston is actually Foxborough, still that would have been incredible to have the U.S. lined up to play that game, because then that would be something that we'd all be excited to have happening.
It's July
Like
4th, 250 years ago. A bunch of dudes stood around and told King George to kick rocks.
yes,
It founded this thing, and we couldn't pull a trigger to make sure that our games would line up to that. What in the world is going on?
I mean, yeah, again, the answer is always money, because then the LA SoFi Stadium, and then a bunch of seats, and I'm blanking on the Seattle Stadium name, but I mean it's all about money because they know they can charge more. They know that the hotel revenues are going to be higher in those cities probably,
Yeah, did I talk to your dad that him and your mom are going on a cruise that weekend, and
and
like
they'll be in Seattle.
the,
Yeah,
and the room prices at the hotels were friggin' astronomical because of it.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, and when they're there, the games that are being played aren't necessarily great games, but still, it's the World Cup, so
Right. So I was looking at tickets to go to Philly. Actually, what started the conversation is my niece and nephew both play high school soccer on Staten Island.
mhm.
And I was going to buy them tickets for Christmas to a game, whether at MetLife or Philly or even up to Foxborough. So let's transition to ticket prices. What in the world?
I mean, it's unbelievable. And it's not even that. I mean, obviously the ticket prices themselves do bother me, just charging thousands and thousands of dollars just to get to one of your country's games, but it's also the fact that FIFA has still been putting on a facade of calling this one of the most affordable. Actually, they're calling it the most affordable World Cup ever. And I'm not sure if you've heard that at all,
I
but it's
haven't.
yeah, so they're what they have is they have this I don't they have like a specific name for the tier of tickets that they're selling, but they're selling tickets like that are $50 per match that you can join a lottery to get. But this ticket tier, it's like the last two rows of a single section in each stadium. So that's like it's like 25 to 30 people. And they're calling it the most affordable World Cup ever because you can get $50 tickets even though, there's 40,000 seat stadiums and it's 20 people that are going to actually be getting those tickets.
So while we're sitting here and I'm going to let you pontificate for a second, I'm going to go to Game Time because that's what I use. I'll go to LA
Yeah.
and I'm going to look at World Cup soccer.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, one thing I saw recently is somebody did a calculation of how much it would take, a family from England to come here and actually follow England all the way through. And the number that came out was like $30,000 for a family of four, which for me honestly didn't sound too bad, but I guess for other World Cups it was like half that price to
Well,
be
yeah,
able to do that exact same thing.
and you would have thought, and this is just me being a pragmatist, right? So we have so much infrastructure for sports here in the United States.
Yeah,
So unlike other places like Korea where they had to build all these stadiums to host a World Cup,
yeah,
we don't have to build shit.
yeah,
It's all here for us.
exactly.
So why are the prices that astronomical? So let's say USA Paraguay.
I know we were talking about the motivation was just being FIFA getting more money, but the reason that even secondary market they're expensive is because primary market was super expensive. Like I'm sure if they sold the primary market tickets for $10, the secondary market would still be pretty high up there. But obviously, if with primary market being as high as it was, it just pushes everything even higher to be
At
able to
the
get to the games.
at the last row in section 526 of SoFi Stadium for USA Paraguay on Friday, June 12th at 6 p.m. One ticket goes for $1,300.
Yeah, I mean it's disgraceful. Like it's supposed to be the world's game. It's supposed to be
Yeah, and if you look at the game, and I'm going to pick on countries like if you look at a lot of the South American countries, if you look at Brazil, if you look at Uruguay, if you look at Venezuela and Argentina, a lot of these young kids that learn how to play soccer learn how to play it with no shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're gonna sit in front of a TV that's, 20-inch, and they're gonna root their team on like there's no tomorrow, and it shuts the country down.
Yeah.
But we're price gouging the shit out of people to come do this, and it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. There's going to be games that are played either in front of empty stadiums or in front of stadiums where there's no people from the actual country that are there to watch the team, which is part of the draw of the World Cup. You put these games on in Qatar, and you would see half the stadium full of people from Senegal or the Ivory Coast, wherever it was,
It was so
jumping
cool.
and singing for their stadium. It was cool.
And if you've never been to a live soccer game and you do have the resources to do it, you've got to go,
Yeah,
especially when it has country pride tied to it. I've marched into the stadium twice with the U.S. Outlaws, once in Philly and once at MetLife Stadium.
nice.
There's nothing like it.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like I'm glad the U.S. is starting to pick up on European fan culture of doing the march-ins and all that kind of
Well,
stuff.
the march-ins, and we have some of our own chants and
Yeah.
some of that stuff. But it's great to watch a game on television. South Africa was probably my favorite. Um, except for that awful hum in the
The
background from the
vuvuzelas,
vuvuzelas,
yeah.
right? But every country that went down there was like represented. The U.S. had a
Yeah,
huge traveling party, and every country that was down there had somebody in the stands that was making noise for that country.
yeah,
And I think we've just eliminated a lot of that because some of these people just aren't going to be able to afford it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it was always gonna be difficult because, to be fair, if you look at the last 4 World Cup locations, you go South Africa, Brazil,
Mhm.
Russia, Qatar, all of that, the hotel rooms and just the cost of food or whatever it is was gonna be lower than it is here. Because obviously US, things are just higher because salaries are higher, everything else is higher, but for these people from Venezuela, like you mentioned, or people from African countries, there's no shot that they could ever get here. Whereas in Qatar or a Russian city, they could actually get there, pay for a hotel, pay for food, whatever, and not be broke
Well, and
after.
the U.S. capital market is like, oh, good, more people coming. We're just going to drive the price of everything up,
Exactly. Yeah.
right? So it sucks because I am a soccer fan, specifically for this 4 year,
Hmm.
every 4 years,
Yeah.
and we're being shut out. I'm not going to spend $526 a ticket to go watch, Senegal play the Ivory Coast.
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do it.
Exactly.
If it was a U.S. team, I literally would spend $1,000 for 2 tickets to go watch the U.S. play. I think that there's very few opportunities in my lifetime to
Yeah.
watch U.S. men's soccer at
Yeah.
home in a World Cup.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, this is probably the only one.
probably, yeah, and because I didn't see him in '94.
Yeah.
So, but I'm not going to spend $1,300
No.
to sit in the last row of the 500 section.
Yeah. No. I think most people won't. And I think that, I mean, that's also an issue in itself that, the people who are going to pay the prices to get there, and people can use their money and enjoy the game however they want, but you know that people that are wealthy or people that are richer, they're not going to be as loud, they're not going to be as passionate. That's just kind of how it goes.
All right, can I tell you a story really quick
Yeah.
about sitting in good seats? So I take my wife to a Yankee game. They were playing the Cleveland Indians, and we're sitting, I think, 14 rows off the field, right? And she's like, "Do you guys not cheer?
Yeah.
They can hear you from here. Do you not cheer?" She thought it was the most boring game she's ever been to
I'm
because
sure.
the closer you get to the field, the more proper people are,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
I don't know that lives and breathes that way in soccer so
Yeah.
much because it's just if you're sitting on the right side of the stadium, it's loud.
Yeah.
Uh,
Definitely.
but I don't think it's going to be that way if you're going to watch Ivory Coast and Senegal and you're from
No.
Hamilton.
No. Yeah. And it also doesn't help that I think Ivory Coast and Senegal are both currently on travel bans. So if that travel ban stays, the stadium's going to be empty, or it's going to be like a few thousand American people that just wanted to come and see any game.
Because that's the only game they can get into.
Exactly.
That's
Exactly. Yeah.
all right. So we've only got a few minutes left. So I'll ask you. We'll put a pin in this. So you look at the draw. You look at the history of the World Cup. Who do you pick going forward
That's a good question. Who do I pick to
to
win it
win?
all?
Yep.
I mean, it's boring because they're number one ranked in FIFA right now, but I would say Spain. I just think they're a deep team. It'll be very difficult to knock Spain out. I also think, like, I mean, it's the same thing that people could say about like the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I mean it always could be England's year. I think this could be England's
Was it
year.
1964 was the last time?
66,
Okay.
I believe, is the year that is the last time they won a trophy because they haven't won the European Championship either in that time frame. But I would say Spain or England, but most likely Spain, just based on past precedent.
I haven't paid much attention, so I'm going to pick your brain just a little bit.
Yeah.
Where is Brazil in the pecking order these days?
I mean, unfortunately for Brazil, they're not what they once were. A lot. They have a lot fewer superstars than they did. I mean, they're still a good team. I had the FIFA rankings pulled up earlier. I don't anymore. I mean, they're still like a top 10 team, but they're not.
Top
They're
three.
not going to be dominant. Yeah. I don't. I think in the last World Cup, I don't know if they made it to the last eight. I think they may have gotten knocked out in the last 16. And I mean, we know like I'm sure you remember the 2014 World Cup. They got to the semifinals and lost 7-1
Seven
to
one to Germany.
Germany, and
Germany
it's
just absolutely slaughtered them.
yeah. And I mean, I don't like speaking in hyperbole of saying like oh like that one loss ruined them, but I think for a while that did kind of
That's
kill their
that's
national team.
that's not unfair.
Yeah,
And just like the U.S. China centers their game around Christian Pulisic, they centered their game around one player for a lot of years. It was
yeah,
Ronaldo, and then it was Ronaldinho,
yeah,
and then it's Neymar. And he's a lot like Christian Pulisic, that he's not the big strong body that's in the middle of the field that can bang
yeah,
with the big guys. So when you put it all in put all the eggs in that basket, it gets complicated. But what about Germany? Well, yeah,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
down.
No, Germany's good, and they have two or three. I won't get into specifics, but they have two or three like very young guys, like 19 to 21-year-olds that are playing really well in Europe right now. So I mean, if they have a good next few months and they develop into strong adult men, then Germany's going to be really tough
I,
to beat.
I
Do you have
Spain.
these are rankings right here?
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the world rankings. Spain is number one. Argentina is number two. Is Messi playing? I thought he retired from international play. Or is he going to go defend his World Cup?
I mean, he may have. I'm not actually sure the status on Messi, but
Yeah, I have
I
to
mean,
look that one
I
up.
mean,
That's a good one.
he's got some gas left in the tank, but you know, it's the question of does Argentina just want to learn how to play without him, which probably. I mean, he still has his legs, but he's not.
Well, he's almost
He's
40,
almost 40. Yeah, so
but still, maybe not the number one player in the world right now, but certainly in the discussion in the top five.
yeah, top five, top 10.
Um, I think it's going to be very interesting because this 48 team thing drives an extra game.
Yeah,
Right? So they're gonna have to play an extra game, and the time frame is still compressed, right? So
yeah,
these guys are used to playing one match a week. This is gonna
most of
be
them. Yeah,
two matches a week for the first 3 weeks of the tournament.
yeah,
So it's gonna be uber taxing on their legs.
yeah. But then that also makes depth super important because I think a lot of managers they'll make a good amount of changes within their starting lineup of but between those games just to keep legs fresh to make sure they have a strong energetic 11 out there.
That's fair. Are they staying with three changes, or did they expand it to five?
It
Do
is
you know?
five.
It is
It's
five.
been five for the last few years. Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of that happened, and I was like, oh, it doesn't. I mean, 3 or 5 changes isn't really a
yeah,
big deal. But some of the leagues had gone up to like 8 changes
yeah,
to especially during the COVID times to kind of to. But if we roll it back to five, I think it gives a manager a lot more leeway to to be more tactical with the decision making.
yeah.
I'm not going to go out on the limb and make a pick in the sense that I know enough soccer, but I will say that it will be a team from the European side of the
It's
world
safe to say. Yeah,
that probably makes a very deep run. I wouldn't be surprised if a Belgium just went deep in. And I'm also a big fan of Kylian Mbappe, so France can
yeah.
always make a deep run. Um, I think it's going to be an interesting time leading up to the World Cup, and I'll tell you this: as soon as I figure out how to do this in a remote way, I'm going
Yeah.
to dial you in from Purdue, and we'll do one as we lead up into the World Cup because it'll right now where everything is speculation and conjecture, right?
Mm,
Is Serginho Dest going to come back healthy? Is Tyler Adams, who just got hurt this past week
yeah.
with an MCL injury, is he going to come back and be healthy?
Yeah.
How much wear and tear are we going to put on the legs of Gio Reyna, Christian Pulisic,
Yep.
Pepe? All those guys that we need to be dogs
Yeah.
for 6 weeks. We need you to be a dog for 6 weeks.
Exactly.
Like how much mileage and wear are we going to put on the legs right now? It's not even January yet. But God, that I'm super freaking excited.
I am too. I am too. I mean, the last World Cup that was on, that was my freshman year in college, and I mean, I watched pretty much every second of every game. Maybe I should have been studying, but grades were fine. But you know,
Your father standing over there and he's getting a little frown on his face.
yeah. Well, in my defense, there was one study building where they had like a giant projector screen that I sat in there and studied while the games were on.
And you said study.
Being there for hours. Yeah.
The studying meant I was watching the soccer game and my books were open.
My books were open. Yeah, they were sitting. I had a pencil in my hand. But
That's awesome. Well, hey, Ryan, thank you for coming to do this. I really had a good time.
thanks for the
And
invite.
hey, we're going to do this again. Signing off until tomorrow. We'll see you guys later.